Democracy thrives on transparency. That's why we document Irish political voices as they are, complete, unedited, and accessible to all. Subscribe to join us in strengthening public discourse.
Some of the worst practices of the Celtic Tiger. What we're now going to see is whole apartment blocks made up of studios that are 32 square metres in size. That's the equivalent of 3 parking spaces. No obligation to have multiple bedroom units. You can just build them all with single studios. No obligation, it being taken out of existing plans that exist, for example, in Dublin City Council, that you need to have 5% of the area for cultural, community, artistic facilities. No, you're just going to be able to cram people in. This is shrinkflation on apartment sizes, because the rents are not going to be coming down, just the size of the apartments that people are expected to live in, raise families in, are being shrunk dramatically, all being done at the behest of the property developers, the vulture funds, who want to increase their profits. They are making very, very substantial profits as we speak, but they want to make even more profits, and we have a government that is operating in their interest. It's why it was very important to see the protest organised by Katu at the weekend, maybe 5,000 people outside the Dáil, and hopefully that is a step towards very, very big protest in the run-up to the budget, organised by Raise the Roof, with all the trade unions, the community groups coming in behind it. The final point is in relation to the harrowing report from Barnardos, pointing out that 40% of parents borrowed money to pay for essentials. A majority of families say they either have to cut back or borrow in order to be able to just pay for basics for their children. This is the 5th richest country in the world, and yet a majority of parents are struggling to provide for their children. It speaks to something deeply wrong in this capitalist system, whereby everything is generated and focused on generating profit for those at the top, and at the same time as you have massive wealth in one of the most advanced countries and economies in the world, you have a lot of poverty and a lot of people struggling to get by. Very concretely, in relation to grocery prices, you have massive profits being made by the big multiples, massive profits made by big agribusiness. They are the driving factors in the continuation of prices going up. And we'll be pointing again to our various cost of living proposals, in particular a price control measure in relation to essentials in groceries. That's what is necessary to cut across the profiteering that is taking place and ensure people have access. Finally, just to mention, Ruth and I will both be speaking at the protest in relation to student fees today outside the Dáil at 6 o'clock. We need the government to back down on the proposal to increase student fees to €3,000 in the context of the broader cost of living crisis, and really we need to be fighting for fully free third level education.
Yeah, so I just want to highlight Ireland's stance in relation to Palestine, in particular the fact that 18 children with really serious health conditions have been stalled under the Medevac programme. The Irish government has apparently delayed this urgent treatment because these children might have their siblings coming with them. Absolutely outrageous. It makes perfect sense for a child to have a brother or sister with them. They may not even have parents as well. And I think it speaks to how the government isn't giving any preferential treatment to Palestinians trying to escape Gaza. I've raised issues myself of a doctor who's the wife of an Irish citizen. I've asked the government to intervene, and they just go through the normal process of family reunification, which they do, but which has taken over a year and a half for many people. People are being killed in Gaza, particularly doctors. I think as well we're looking to the von der Leyen vote later in the week. Under no circumstances should Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour or any other party that claims to be in support of Palestine vote for Ursula von der Leyen. The excuse that the vote is coming from the far right, there's a vote, and it's absolutely critical that she doesn't get an endorsement. Somebody who's given carte blanche to somebody who's been sought by the International Criminal Court. And, I think Labour as well in particular have indicated that they might support her, and I think that would be completely opposed by the vast majority of people. I want to raise the issue of drones for commercial delivery. It's coming up in the Transport Committee this week. It's been, my area, Dublin West, has been a pilot for these drones for a year and a half. I'm having a meeting on it in my office this evening, and they've been causing havoc for residents in terms of noise, privacy, wildlife as well being disrupted. For what? For a cup of coffee, a burger or whatever. And now that they're teaming up with Deliveroo, that is going to accelerate, multiplied by 10 at least. So I think it's absolutely critical that the community is listened to, that there's community approval and assent to allowing, in the same way as you apply for planning permission for a building, this whole process should have to seek community consultation and support. Lastly, as well, the student fees issue, looking to the protest this evening. I think it's critical that the government backs down on this. This is something that so many families are already having to reduce their scope of opportunities because of the housing crisis. Now people are choosing cheaper courses, courses that don't involve travel. And this taking away of supports that people would have had when we know that the cost of living is a real serious problem. So we'll be raising that in the Dáil as well.
Do you have a view on Micheál Martin's flights, changing his flights?
Well, I think if it is the case that he altered his flight to attend a GAA match, it's fairly pathetic. So he should answer questions.
For him to publish how much it costs to do that, because it was a last minute change.
Absolutely, we will call on him to do that, yeah.
Bruce, on the drones, is it not better to have less cars and motorbikes and all on the road to make those deliveries by putting drones in the sky through them?
Okay, well, I think the environmental argument is the main one that's being used, and usually what they do is they count the last mile rather than, there's technology involved in drones as well that requires warehousing, that requires other, emissions and so on. As well as that, there's a significant migrant workforce and workforce in general who are delivering on bikes. We know delivery workers are mainly on bikes, which are environmentally friendly. They're going to lose their jobs if this drone operation takes off. So we're going to have a contribution at the meeting tonight from an Australian professor who helped a community in Australia where this was started by Google actually there about 6 years ago. And they successfully challenged the drone delivery in their area. So we're going to be listening to and taking advice from her as well.
Do you think it's appropriate for the common drones for the government to be kind of promoting Ireland as a possible global leader on excelling our uncluttered airspace at a time when they haven't even published the framework around how they would be operated with a lack of regulation in the area? Is that appropriate?
No, I think to market Ireland as a place for drones because of uncluttered airspace is something that I've only heard today. Also, there's a very friendly relationship between tech companies and the Irish government, and we have to challenge this inevitability about every single piece of tech that comes along. I'm totally in favour of drones for medical deliveries, for prescriptions, for so many useful things. Isolated areas were mentioned, rural areas. But the idea that just this airspace over us should be just unleashed with no approval from local communities. People are losing their peace, the right to enjoy their gardens. Significantly, if you're near some of the flight paths, it's constant. I was out delivering leaflets on Saturday, and every 20 seconds a drone was going over the estate that I was in. So it is a significant incursion, and it's going to multiply by 10. That's the thing. They want to go from 170,000 to 2 million flights.
Bruce, Gary Gannon was speaking here just a short time ago and he was asked about the presidential election. He said that, basically the shortlist for the Stop Dems at the moment seems to be Francis Black or Catherine Connolly. Obviously there's a meeting coming up of the number of parties next 24 hours or so on that topic. So in terms of the wrong grouping, is there any addition to that shortlist as opposed to those two potential candidates?
I think what we would look for is a strong left candidate, somebody who has a record of, being pro-Palestine, taking stances alongside working class communities, people facing discrimination and oppression and inequality. I think not aligning themselves with, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, right-wing parties or independents. And we would look at who comes forward and pick who we think is the strongest on that
You don't want
basis.
independence, is it?
No, sorry, I said somebody who aligns themselves with Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, or even right-wing independents, in their daily work and so on.
Can I ask you about something Richard Donoghue of Independent Ireland said? They were talking about their own, I suppose, ideas or whatever, who they'd back for the presidential election, and Richard O'Donoghue said that whoever the president is needs to be respectful of the Irish culture, that people can come in with their other cultures, that's fine, but the Irish culture needs to be protected because Irish people are at risk of becoming a minority in their own country. Do you think that's an appropriate comment?
Yeah, sure. No, I don't. I think it's dog whistling by Independent Ireland, which is not new. That's their stock in trade. I think most people in Ireland consider that our culture is enriched by people coming here from other countries, from other backgrounds, and personally I'd like to see a president, like we have had with Michael D. Higgins, who defends that modern, progressive, multicultural vision of what it is to be Irish, not some backward view of going back to the days when this country was run by the Catholic Church. I don't know if that's what Richard O'Donoghue and Independent Ireland want us to do, but certainly, I think it's likely that if there's a left candidacy in the presidential election, and if there's an Independent Ireland supported candidacy, they will be candidacies on opposite sides of the political divide, and I think that's part of what the political debate will be about. I think it's why this election and why the position is so important.
Was it a racist comment?
I think it was certainly dog whistling.
There's misinformation constantly from some of these right-wing independents. Like last week in the Dáil, we heard that apparently you can be prosecuted for having a private conversation in your own house in Scotland now. Like, absolute rubbish. Apparently for citing scripture you face prosecution, and it's just said no challenge. So I think we have to challenge them. They have to be called out on it by the media, hopefully.
Would you be happy with Catherine Connolly as a candidate?
Personally, I'm not getting into names. I think Catherine Connolly is a great potential candidate, but we don't want to get into name after name after name. Or what about this person? What about you? See? So, but I think Ruth played out well what we're looking for in a candidate, and then I think you can use your own assessment of whether various people match those criteria.
Were you disappointed Joe Duffy ruled himself out?
I was not disappointed, Joe Duffy.
In a democracy, information is power. By subscribing to our channel, you become part of a community that believes in open access to political speech, unedited, direct, and authentic. Join us as we document Ireland's political journey, not just through headlines, but through real voices and real stories. Stay informed. Stay connected.